We have lots to discuss in today's video, including the discussion around a potential big trade between the Montreal Canadiens and the Buffalo Sabres. It's an idea that stems from Montreal media discussing the possibility of a blockbuster deal between both sides. We'll discuss how it can work and if it's something both teams should consider doing. Plus, we have some updates on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Is there any way head coach Craig Berube is on the hot seat? The team has struggled, but is it really a coaching issue, or could we be more likely to see a trade or some kind of changes within the player personnel to try to spark the team? Plus, we have big news today regarding a new hockey podcast starting between Matthew and Brady Tkachuk. We also have news as well regarding several key injury updates and news from the NHL waiver wire. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in today's video. We'll kick things off first with news from the NHL waiver wire. Now, one of our waiver players is actually a new signing here today that needs waivers to go down to the minor leagues. But we have the Calgary Flames placing forward Justin Kirkland on waivers. Kirkland has been a useful player at times, good in the shootout, so we'll see if he gets picked up. I mean, wouldn't be completely shocking if he did. Could be a good depth option for some teams out there. But the Flames have him on waivers to be reassigned to the minor leagues. And the New York Rangers today have signed goaltender Spencer Martin, who had originally signed in the KHL to start the season, but recently had his contract bought out. His results actually weren't that bad, but not really sure exactly what happened or the breakdown between him coming back to North America, but he ended up getting his contract bought out, became a free agent, and the Rangers are signing him to a 2-year deal. Obviously, there's no injuries. There's nothing really to be worried about within the Rangers organization. This is really just a matter of adding some much-needed depth to the organization for the minor league. So Spencer Martin will kind of become a number 3 option, if you will, for call-up should something happen at the NHL level. I said it's a 2-year deal as well, so he'll be with the club for this year and for next. But, of course, I'd like for him to go down to the American Hockey League, and to do that, he has to clear waivers first. So we will see what happens with both of these players around tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock Eastern time. Now, as I mentioned, we got some pretty significant news. At least I think it's significant. At least it could be good from an entertainment standpoint, good for growing the game. But on the Pat McAfee show today, Matthew and Brady Tkachuk were making an appearance and confirmed and announced that they are launching a brand new podcast together. It's going to be called Wingmen. Of course, they're both NHL wingers, so it's obviously a play on their position. Wingmen feature Matthew and Brady Tkachuk will be it comes to me, it's kind of like hockey's version of New Heights. If you're familiar with the New Heights podcast that features football brothers Jason and Travis Kelce, it sounds like it's going to be on similar lines. I think Wave is the production company behind it. And it sounds like, based on what they had to say on the Pat McAfee show, that they were approached about this after 4 Nations. It's been quite some time that they were approached to do this podcast. But at the time, they were getting ready to go into the playoffs. So they asked basically, like, we're kind of interested, but, we got to focus on playoffs and everything. Can we talk maybe in the off season? And they did, and were having discussions throughout the summer and are finally ready to launch here. So essentially their first episode launches tomorrow. They've got all their social medias, and it'll also be on YouTube. So you can either watch the video version of it on YouTube, or you can get it on any other podcast platforms, whether it go through Spotify or Apple or any of the big podcast distributors that way. So you can listen to it in a variety of fashions. We'll see what it's like. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to compare to New Heights. I mean, I know Jason and Travis Kelce have built that up quite substantially. I think it's unique in a sense that it's a set of professional athlete brothers, of course, in the same sport. But, I'm not sure if it'll be the same format or what have you. But we know they're both big-time talkers, so it should be fun, it should be entertaining, and like I said, if nothing else, it's going to be another avenue to get eyeballs on the game, and should hopefully be good for growing the game. What they're going to say, what they're going to talk about exactly is, I guess, to be determined once we get a chance to see the first episode tomorrow. I suspect they'll be kind of weighing in on a lot of the news items and stuff going around the world of the NHL. So we'll see. I definitely would recommend you check it out. I would suspect that there's going to be pretty good entertainment value, if nothing else. So it's called Wingmen with Matthew and Brady Tkachuk. They're here on YouTube, and they're also got all their social media accounts set up. So check them out. Now, a bunch of other news around the NHL today. The Washington Capitals have named a new assistant coach, and it's Patrick Weller. He becomes the assistant coach basically in the spot that was vacated by the now departed Mitch Love. Of course, we know there was some outside circumstances that led to Mitch Love's departure. So Patrick Weller, who basically has had the same role with their AHL affiliate with the Hershey Bears for the last 7 years, gets permanently elevated to take that role with the Capitals at the NHL level. Of course, Brent Thompson, a former member of the Hershey Bears himself, and of course, a longtime player, will take over the role that Weller leaves behind. Now the empty spot from him at the AHL level with Hershey. So the Capitals now have their full-time replacement lined up due to the departure of Mitch Love from the team. A bunch of injury updates today. The Philadelphia Flyers activated Tyson Forster and Carl Grundstrom because of that, sent back to the American Hockey League. The Lightning are doing battle with the Rangers tonight. And that is a game that the Lightning are severely depleted. They're without top defenseman and captain Victor Hedman. They're also without Anthony Cirelli. Both were game time decisions, but neither were able to suit up and play. They're also without Ryan McDonough. So that's not good. Nick Paul was doubtful for this game as well. They did recall Scott Sabourin and Boris Tkachuk. And Sabourin actually has a goal tonight as well, which is not something you'd expect. He's now served his full suspension from the preseason, so when he's called up, he can actually get in to the lineup. So obviously, not good news for the Lightning as far as their, the amount of players that they're missing due to injury. So I know they're not off to a horrible start this season, but they're not off to a great start either. The standings in the Atlantic are still pretty jammed up, if you will. And like I said, it's one of those situations where you've got, teams like Montreal, Boston, Ottawa at the top three, and there's only 2 points separating those three teams. And then you've got another cluster basically of, your other teams like, your Tampas and other teams within there, Detroit. Florida's not far behind Toronto. And a couple of wins and a couple of losses will either stray you one way or the other. So it's certainly a situation where you can't afford to go on a losing streak. But if you're, having health issues and you're losing a lot of players, that's not going to make it any easier. So we'll see how the Lightning make out for the rest of tonight. I think it was 4-3 Rangers last time I had a chance to check the score before I sat down here to record. The Avalanche are going to be without Valeri Nichushkin for a little bit. Don't know the exact timeline just yet, but head coach Jared Bednar did confirm he is going to be missing some time. Of course, Thatcher Demko out of the last game here left due to injury, which is not good. It sounds like it's a groin injury, and he's going to be out for about 2 to 3 weeks. The other thing I want to mention on the Connect front, it had nothing to do with their roster, but man, I don't know what it is with Quinn Hughes. Listening to any post-game interview that he does, anytime he talks to the media, he is so short and forward answers. Like, he does not give any kind of insight, really no thought at all into his answers. I see a lot of people saying he kind of looks checked out. Like, this is horrible news for Vancouver. They're having a bad start to the season. Demko gets hurt. Pettersson's not back to the player he needs to be, and Hughes is not having the season he really wants either. He's already had some injuries. His numbers aren't where they would like to be, and then the way he's talking to the media is like, is he already on his way out the door? I mean, maybe it's by design. Maybe there's some people that say that Canucks, they really hate media noise, even though they bring on a lot of it themselves, but they just can't seem to handle, people being critical of them when they don't do well, which I don't get, because it's like a welcome to the world of professional sports. You're going to be criticized when you don't perform out the task and when you don't do well. That's just, these guys are doing their jobs, but we know they seem to be one of the teams that's the most sensitive to the outside noise, if you'll call it that. But I don't know. To me, if I'm just for Canuck fans in mind, I'm just concerned over his demeanor and how he conducts things with the media now. It's like, I don't know, got a feeling he's checked out. I hope I'm wrong, but it just doesn't look good to me. In Ottawa as well, we talked yesterday that Thomas Chabot left the game due to injury. We don't know the full extent or exactly what they're dealing with at this point, but Travis Green, the head coach of the Senators, did confirm that Chabot will miss tomorrow's game. And then from there, they'll hopefully have a further update to get more of a timeline. For right now, he's out tomorrow, and we don't know beyond that just yet. Now, as I mentioned, some other things to talk about, including the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I've seen a couple of good, healthy debates on various sports programming here today. One was on the Jeff Merrick program, where Merrick was talking to Nick Alberga, and they were talking about a variety of things with the Leafs. But, like, is Craig Berube in trouble here? I mean, this team has not started very good. And a lot of fans, from what I've seen, don't really see a lot to be optimistic about and are quite concerned with this team. Like defensively, they were really good last year. They are not this year. It's just like the whole decor. I don't know if it's they don't forget how to play. So like that's why a lot of people were pointing to the fact that they have a new D coach. Is this more of a issue with how he wants them to play or how he's directing them or anything like that? I don't know. But it's definitely a problem. No matter who's the problem, it's a big one. This team is not, they just don't have the life. They don't have the energy. They don't have the fight in them. This just does not look like a team that's really able to contend. They did discuss in that interview with Jeff Merrick and Nick Alberga if their window was gone, have they already missed out on their opportunity to win, and they felt like it might be the case. Only time will tell. But basically saying that Brad Treliving, if you think about it, the roster construction is on him, and maybe some of the moves he's made hasn't quite panned out to the point that he was hoping for. But ultimately, they've spent a lot of draft capital in the past number of years trying to go for it and contend and be a contender, right? So they don't have much in the way of draft picks or really very few prospects that are interesting enough to other teams that they have as trade bait. They're getting to be an older team now, right? You're going on a decade here of Matthews and Nylander. More than that for Morgan Rielly. Then you get some other players that have been around a little bit longer as well. Not that they're like super old or anything, but they do have an older team. You throw in Tavares, you throw in Tanev, you throw in McCabe. Like they're not old, but they're not young either. They just don't have much youth on this team. A lot of the guys have been around quite a while now. So ultimately between the lack of draft capital, the lack of younger players or prospects that they could move, how are they going to go about swinging a big trade to bring in another impact player? It doesn't matter if you think that he should have a defenseman or a top six forward. What are they going to offer to other teams to make them want to do business? It's not going to be easy. I mean, Cowan is probably their most prized prospect, and he's a good player, but is he really that high end that teams are going to offer you like Philip Forsberg in Nashville or you know what I mean? Like something like really like high end. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to put together a package, but then if all your assets in the package are like mediocre, whatever you want to call it, like what's the odds they're going to accept the trade? You don't have a lot of draft capital. You don't have a lot of prospects. You're dealing with roster. You're looking for a hockey trade. That's, not say it can't be done, but it's not going to be easy. So basically what they're saying, like, well, one of the quote Jeff Merrick said, like, there's just not a lot of bullets in the barrel here. Like, what are they going to, what can they do? Could they actually consider having Berube take the fall here and be a coaching change? You got Peter DeBoer waiting in the wings, trying to find work again. There's other experienced coaches that are still out there too, whether it be a Jay Woodcroft or a Peter Laviolette or any of these other guys. I don't know if they'd be the answer there. I think Berube's a fine coach, and to be honest, I don't think he's the problem. Just so we're clear on that, I really don't. But what's Brad Treliving going to do? Should Berube actually be worried here? I mean, Merrick and Alberga both agreed, and I have the same feeling. This is on the players, and to some degree on Treliving. I think Berube is the last one you should be pointing the finger at. They're getting subpar goaltending this year, which last year they were getting all-star level goaltending. That's a big difference. Their D-core was top 10 in the league last year. Now they're not. Like, it's well below that. You throw in the fact that they're still scoring at a good rate without Mitch Marner, which is a plus. That's good. You found a way to still be a really strong offensive team with losing a 100-point player. Great news. But is it? Because you can't do all those other things. You're not keeping the puck out of your net. So we're kind of back to a problem that they had like all those years ago when they were, first becoming a playoff team. All those years of having weak defense that was losing them, playoff series, then they finally get a really good, stretch there of being really good defensively, and then they couldn't score the big goal in the playoffs. Like Mitch and Austin, these guys were not coming through in a manner most in the playoff series, right? For the big goals, like they would get shut down when there was less time and space. That was, to me, the biggest reason why they didn't have more playoff success in the last couple of years. Defensively and goaltending wise has been better, But now we're back to that being the issue. Now they're still scoring. Like, it takes its turns, right? So ultimately, I don't know. But the fact is, like I said, like they were saying, and I agree, Trey Living doesn't have a ton of options. So I just kind of half wonder, would they do that? Would Berube be in trouble here early? Now, I don't think anybody's in trouble yet. But like, they've got a big road trip coming up here. I think it's at the end of next week where they go on the road for like 6 games. Like, if they come out of that without a muchly improved result and, without having a winning record of some sort, you have to think that we could see something big happen. Because ultimately, you throw in, they have a couple more games first and then they go on a 6-game road trip. So we're talking, by the time we get through all of that, they're going to be approaching the 25-game mark. We know after U.S. Thanksgiving, if you're 4 points or more out of the playoffs, the odds of you getting back in are really hard. Not saying it's impossible. We've had a couple of teams do it recently. It is possible, but it's every night you get all these teams in your division that are getting points. Some of them are going to overtime, so you get a lot of 3-point games. It's really, really tough to make up, even 4, 5, 6, 7 points. So you can't get too far out of it early. You can't win the cup October, November, but if you have a bad start, you can lose it and lose your ability to play for it. So we'll see. I don't know that making a move on Berube is the right thing, but just knowing the limited options and how difficult a big trade is going to be for the Leafs, I honestly wonder what we're going to see if the next week to 10 days go by here and we don't see an improved result and we have the losses continue to pile up here in epic fashion for Toronto. So we'll see. Let me know what you think. Are we more likely to see a trade or a coaching change, or what's got to give here for the Leafs to get things turned around? Now, as I mentioned, another big trade idea. This is just an idea. This is not rumored to be being discussed, but I came across Montreal media discussing, if this were available to you, would you do it? One of those hypotheticals. And it suggested a Jerard Fagerberg trade with the Buffalo Sabres for Tage Thompson. And the Montreal media on BPM Sports said, one of them, the guy that was talking about it, was basically, if that was offered, he would drive Slavkovsky to the airport and do the deal without even giving it a second thought. So I wanted to know what everybody here would think about that. Would you do that kind of deal? Now, let's just kind of break down each player. I mean, Jerard Slavkovsky and Tage Thompson are in very different spots of their career. Jerard Slavkovsky is 21 years old. Tage Thompson is 28 years old. So there's a 7-year age gap. But a lot of people think that Montreal, of course, who has a lot of youth and are one of the younger teams in the NHL, getting a bit older in a key roster spot might not be a terrible thing. Now, given the age gap, we have a much better idea on a long-term basis of what Tage Thompson is. Jerard Slavkovsky could still change the narrative on what he is longer term. Like I said, he was the first overall pick in 2022. He's got 3 years in. He's in year number 4 now. His new contract extension, which was signed for 8 years and $7.6 million, just kicked in. He's in the first year of that, so he's got this year and 7 more under contract with that new deal. And over time, if he is a productive enough player, to me, that should not be a problematic contract. If he can, to be honest, even if he can consistently be what he is now or more, then it should be okay. But the problem here is, based on this year, even though the team has taken a big step forward and is playing exceptionally better than we've seen in recent years, he personally, in my opinion, has not, at least not looking at his overall results. And I understand there's a lot more to it than just strictly numbers, but I haven't seen every minute of every Habs game this year, but I do get to see them a lot. They are in my region. I get to watch even the regional games. So I've seen a big chunk of their games. And like, I'm not saying he's not producing, but he's Suzuki, Caulfield, Demidov, they're all playing a much bigger role in all of this. Then you got like Hudson, Dobson, I'd even throw in Bolduc even being maybe more, overall right now, longer term, I can see a better fit. So Slavkovsky, like I said, he's a big guy. We know he's big, physical, should be a premier power forward when he hits his prime. Not quite there yet, but he's in year 4, so he's getting there. Like I said, 21 going on 22 years old. Year 1, he only put up 10 points in 39 games, concerned a lot of people that maybe he wasn't ready or maybe it wasn't a good move. Followed it up next year with a big improvement, 50-point campaign, including 20 goals, and played a full 82-game schedule. Year 3, he basically hit the same thing. A little bit fewer goals, but overall same number of points, basically. 51 points in 79 games. So one more point, missed a couple games. So for all intents and purposes, basically the same result. So year 2 to year 3, we didn't really see another big jump forward like I think a lot of people were hoping. But then this year, he's on pace for less. He's slowed down. Now, is it early? Yeah, he's 16 games in, but he's put up 9 points. 6 of those 9 points are on the power play. So he's only got 3 regular strength points, even strength points so far in 16 games. It's not a lot. So, ultimately, Slafkovsky is, like I said, he's on pace with those numbers if it doesn't pick up for about 45, 46 points. So his point totals might actually take a step back a little bit this year. And he plays a lot on the top line with Suzuki and Caulfield, and they're having amazing seasons. If anything, I'd say their games have both taken another leap forward. So, keeping all that in mind, Tage Thompson, like I said, 28 years old. He's even bigger guy than Slafkovsky. Like he's a massive dude here. 28 years old. This year he's at 12 points in 15 games. He's got 4 more years on his contract, so this one plus 4 more. Whereas Slafkovsky has this one and 7 more. So 3 years difference on contract, but $7.14 million. So yes, he's a bit older. He's more established though, and he actually makes a little bit less money, about $500,000 less. He's a 3-time 38-plus goal scorer. 3 times he's hit between 38 and 47 goals. He's been over 42 times, and that's in recent years here. Career high of 94 points came in 22-23. Last year he was down a bit. The team also was as well. 72 points last year. And so this year he's got 12 points in 15 games, so he's on pace, around that 70 or so point mark as well. So, ultimately, well, actually be a little bit less than that. I didn't quite prorate it, but it'd be a little bit under 70 points. But still, he has, he's got a big shot, big body, built similar to Slafkovsky in a sense. They do play a little bit of a different style, but he is a lot more proven goal scorer and producer than Slafkovsky is. So if you could make that trade, would you do it? Now, here's the reason it even came up. We know the Buffalo Sabres find themselves once again at the bottom of the Atlantic Division. There's a lot of rumors that the Sabres are going to have to consider a couple of significant moves. We haven't heard that Tage Thompson is available or anything like that, but he is a name on that roster. We did hear earlier in the year that guys like Thompson and Rasmus Dahlin had both talked to management saying like, we're still okay being here, but we need to see some improvements. They very well, and now Dahlin's got a lot of other stuff going on off the ice with his fiance and everything. So I don't think he's in a position where he's going to be, demanding anything right now. I think he's got other bigger things on his mind. But those two guys especially, and of course they might have bought themselves more time with Dahlin based on how they've handled everything internally as well because of the difficult situation personally that he's dealing with. But those guys essentially were, there was concern they could become the next Jack Eichel, Sam Reinhart combo and ask out because of the lack of success that team has had and how everything's been run. So, we're not there yet. It has not happened. But if Kevin Adams, which you would think would have no choice but to consider some bold moves here, if things don't improve, that he could be a player that would have big value. And now, from Buffalo's standpoint, Slafkovsky is 7 years younger, a little bit cheaper on the contract, so they get to save some money. They get younger, and he potentially could develop into what Thompson is now in a few years. It's hard to say. Whereas Montreal would get a more established player who's at that level now instead of maybe getting there in 2, 3, 4 years. So with a team that's poised to, looks like they're going to poised at least to make playoffs again and be better positioned to possibly go on a more of a run and have more of a chance to to get their name here. I don't know if they're a Stanley Cup contender just yet, but like they're working towards that, right? At least you can see that over the next year or two, especially, that they could get there. Whereas the Sabres, you don't see that, right? So the trade has merit to some degree. And Thompson can play center. He can also play wing. So he could possibly fill that number 2 center spot. Imagine like Suzuki being a smaller guy. He's not, tiny or anything, but he's not big, right? So like Thompson would give them some size down the middle. Now, Thompson has been playing more on the wing this year, lost a little bit for Buffalo. But like I said, he has been a centerman before. I'm not sure if they would be comfortable putting him in there, but like, Doc's got good size as a centerman, but he's not, I don't know if he's really going to be the long-term player there. So, I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting thought at the very least. I'd be a little bit reluctant to pull the trigger because of the age difference, but if I really believe in this team and think that they're poised to take that next step, and I can get a chance, like I said, to turn Slafkovsky into what he might be down the road right now and get a player who's similar ilk and built, then maybe I consider that. I don't know. I know there's a lot of Habs fans that would want to probably chime in here. You're probably reluctant to trade your first overall pick from 2022. I get that. But let me know. Does this trade make sense for you? Would you do it? Give me the pros. Give me the cons. Let's have a discussion in the comments, and we will discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.